I'm not pretending to know what should happen, whether or not they should be in combat roles or not. And I know your stance on it. I'm just curious, assuming that everything is created equal, the standards are equal, everything, like, if a woman can prove herself to live up to the standards, the same standards that men can, is it okay to have her fight next to?
I have no problem. Here's the other issue.
It's kind of the G.I. Jane
Yeah,
thing.
but I don't have a problem with that. If a person can prove, yes.
Sure.
But
Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Zero Bunker. Back with another episode. It's another week. G and CJ here. And if this is your first time in the Zero Bunker, we want to welcome you, but we also want to warn you because this is a safe space for skullfuckers, but not those of you that are easily offended. What's up, G?
Hey, what's going on, guys? Yeah, you hit it right on the head, man. I mean, I feel we got to give this warning label every time, but we shouldn't if we lived in a much better society. But
yeah, well, if you are listening to this on iTunes, you saw the explicit logo. But if you're on YouTube, I don't know.
Did you actually know there's actually only one episode where that logo is not on there?
Which one was it?
The one with the Iwo Jima veteran, because we literally talked for like 10 seconds and then have him tell his entire story. And
I didn't know they evaluated them each one. I thought maybe we just had a label and then we were just, you know what I mean? iTunes just looked at everything that we did like that.
Yeah, no. So it's actually pretty interesting. Well, now you actually manually have to put that option if it's going to be explicit.
Oh, okay. So. I see. All right. Well, so this podcast is pretty it's pretty interesting, and I think it's a little bit different at least than other military veteran style brands or podcasts in the sense that we really try to give, and I think this is actually something that you had mentioned that one of our commenters had said, but like we try to really translate a more mature, open-ended conversation around things that might be a little bit more taboo sometimes.
Yeah, well, here's the deal. I mean, we still fuck around. We still have, dark humor and all that shit. I mean, it is, branching off from Zero Foxtrot. And, but at the end of the day, we always say we want you guys to come out with something, whether it's humor, whether it's something you learn, whether you can apply it in your life, or whether it's knowledge, and I think that's what's important. If we're going to sit here and run our fucking socks for like, an hour and just talk about mindless bullshit, I mean, I think we have plenty of that already. So.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I enjoy mindless bullshit like the rest of them. But it's cool because some of these topics that we get into, G and I are not always on the same page necessarily, or we have different outlooks on things, but we can have these mature conversations. We can really open up, and I learn so much and gain perspective in a different way just doing these, and so it's been a great experience for me.
Yeah, no, absolutely, man. And again, that this is like, I say sometimes we say things that maybe other people wish they could say, or maybe they're like, hey, what's actually interesting though is that even though there are a lot of times we agree on things and a lot of times we don't, or we learn from each other, right? But I have yet to see one comment where people are like, man, fuck this guy, go this guy. You know what I mean? And
which is good.
Well, for me, which is good. Tang's religion, which is good because at the end of the day, I mean, it's we want people to kind of like be a mature audience and look at things in perspectives. And then there are some things where, you just can't budge, and it's just the way it is, man. Yeah,
and the thing is, guys, anytime you are absorbing our content in any way, please understand that there's always a deeper open idea behind it, and it's not so cut and dry. We're not typically sitting here saying this is the way it is and you better think like us and shoving that down your throat. What we're doing is we're just having a conversation about things that everybody else is talking about, and we're completely open to hearing whatever perspective it is that you have. So if you disagree with us, hey, that's totally cool. Just maturely give us a response down below. And
that's why we have emojis. So
that's true.
They can maturely tell us to eat dick.
Yeah. I'm sold on emojis, man. I think I overuse. I need to back off.
Yeah. Well, I mean, last episode, it was actually interesting, and we talk about all kinds of subjects and all kinds of things. We bring history. We talk about hard fucks. We talk about our own personal experiences, or we get into subjects like, I mean, we went from like fragging officers to bias.
Don't do that.
Yeah, don't do that. Bias in the military, Space Force, like all kinds of other shit. We're talking about World War I and Vietnam and Iraq, and so it's actually pretty interesting that we can kind of like give this.
We really do cover the spectrum, I think, of a lot of things. And, talking about last episode, if you guys missed that, first of all, we're going to have links at somewhere to go, or just go to the channel and check that out. But it was, I would say that it was more unique than previous episodes in the sense that we touched on things, something that I would say is definitely a potential hot button or a chord, and that's getting into bias when it comes to racism or just racial bias in general. And we gave a story regarding somebody who should be held in the utmost regard as one of the hardest motherfuckers that we've had an opportunity to talk about on here.
Yeah. And for those of you, he's talking about Private Johnson, who was with the Harlem Hellfighters during the First World War. And when we talked about the whole bias and valor is not just racially motivated. This situation happened to be, but there is a lot of bias in the military when it comes to rewards and valor, even down to the very small level. You know what I mean? And so that's kind of some of the subjects that we talk about here and there. And today, it was actually pretty interesting. We kind of wanted to segment it off, and I know that this has been talked about a lot, and it's probably it's nothing new to anybody, but. It's always been kind of that subject, like, women in the military, right?
Yeah.
What is their roles, especially with all the changes that have been happening the last couple of years, and women going through Ranger School and infantry courses and all of that, and so we kind of wanted to explore that a little bit and kind of see where it takes us,
Yeah,
a lot of hate mail probably.
Yeah. I mean, look, we already understand that there's going to be lots of opinions swirling around this one, and that's completely okay. I would say, let's put this out there. I would encourage, if you are particularly a female listener, I would love to hear your perspective, because I mean, we're two dudes sitting here at the table going to give our 2 cents on it. But we can't provide the female perspective necessarily, like through our own voice. And maybe one day we can have somebody on or something that'd be really cool.
And when he says female, he means like genetically real female. Okay.
Well, that's what's interesting is like when we talk about, look, I got my own feelings when it comes to this, whatever you associate with or whatever that may be. But the thing is society in general right now is just having, I don't know, man, we're going through some sort of freaking existential crisis of, it's equality, but equality and understanding, but then it's reaching these new depths and levels that almost are becoming, in my opinion, just obnoxious. Now, I think that when we get into women in the military here in a second, like, I think G and I are going to slightly differ on some of the opinions.
I don't know, man. I think you might be surprised on some things, man.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, maybe.
I
don't know. But I mean, but think about it, like with the gender association and all that stuff, like that kind of plays into this whole conversation, because it's saying that, I should be, I don't know, it's like I should be recognized as, or have the equal opportunities and everything as everybody else. And whether that's I identify here or there or whatever. And we see freaking, women that are taking testosterone because they identify as a man, but then they're
what's interesting,
fighting
man?
And wrestling like
what's
chicks.
Interesting? Talk about that. I actually saw this thing today. So it was about Chelsea Manning. I don't know if you know of him/her. Basically, this was the dude or whatever that was Army specialist who a couple years ago in Iraq, he leaked out like thousands and thousands of classified or unclassified information to like WikiLeaks, right? It was like videos, and it was like the biggest like scandal. Are you serious?
I feel like an idiot. Like I'm
well, you're not
embarrassed to say that I follow politics,
but you're not missing much. I mean, I don't get into politics that much, but it was just interesting, right? So she did all this shit when the whole WikiLeaks thing was happening.
So it's a he or she?
Well, that's the thing, right? So the day she gets sentenced or he gets sentenced, he's like, oh, by the way, I always felt like a female. I want a sex change and shit, right? And then she went to prison for 7 years, and then got pardoned by the president, Obama. And then she fucking tried to run for Senate. I'm like, and obviously she lost today, which was actually pretty interesting. But it was just, like it kind of made me wonder. I could give a fuck less about what she wants to identify with, right, or he or whatever. What boggles the mind is that you literally have a traitor who's running for Senate. That's what bothers me even more.
Right.
You know what I mean? But
yeah, I feel totally in the dark with that, but it is weird. It's weird. You were just talking about that the whole time because I'm not familiar with the situation. I feel like
you should definitely read on it.
I'm thinking like, okay, was it a born female that became a man or a man that became a female?
I don't know, dude.
There's too much like wading through the waters.
Well, it's actually, I mean, you can actually go on Wikipedia and it actually tells you the entire story and of, childhood and all of that. And I think he or she identified, himself as a girl since he was a kid, So, and again, I'm not here to judge anything or anybody about that. You know what I mean? I get there's circumstances and shit.
But it definitely should be said that this conversation, I think, is especially interesting in 2018 because people are so all over the place with their opinions on sexes and equality, and there's all these segmented groups, and like it's just different than it used to be. I mean, even 10 years ago, it was just completely different. And I'm not, I'm not judging whether or not, it's better or worse now. I think it's confusing as fuck to me, so I'll say that. And I can't get on board with this, identify with whatever you are. Like, I think, and that's where my science brain gets into more of a, look, your chromosomes are your chromosomes, and we need a way to be able to just explain what that means. And male and female is a way that we identify something in your DNA. And so, I get it. If you feel like a chick and you want me to call you that, that's fine. Just let me know beforehand, because otherwise, if you got breasts, I'm like,
I don't know, man. It's not even that. It's not even that. I mean, that becomes an entirely different subject and shit. My opinion on that is that, you got to set up a boundary. If you're like, if you're down to genetics, man, like,
oh yeah, it doesn't get more like rock solid, right?
It's like, if you got a dick, you're a guy. If you don't, you're a chick. Like,
well, and this is why I think it somewhat segues into this. So, like, kind of moving into women in the military is that women. Okay, it needs to be said that regardless of how you identify, if you were born into this world a woman, then you have a certain genetic and hormonal structure that shifts you towards certain traits that women, again, are associated with. And one of those being things like substantially less of an anabolic hormone, testosterone. Now, testosterone, for those of you that don't know, was the primary male sex hormone. It's produced by the testes. Like it's what makes us men, really, ultimately. Mm-hmm. And that hormone really drives things like muscle anabolism and, kind of more of I would say more of maybe an aggression, or there's a little bit more things that lead us. I mean, having hair on your body versus not, like, there's all these little like nuances. And so there's never going to be a scenario ever, or more than likely. Okay. I want to say ever. So that's so definitive. Rarely to ever will you ever have, let's say you're looking at a sport and you're saying, okay, let's figure out who the fastest human being on the planet is. It's rare to probably never that it's going to be of the female sex than it is going to be the male. Like the male, and I'm not saying that the females can't be faster than the males. They absolutely can. But I'm saying at the elitist levels, men are just set up to have physical capabilities that are slightly superior than women. Now, also, women are set up in certain genetic and hormonal ways that I think allows them to be superior in other ways that we are not. And so, anyway, I thought that was just.
So, I get what you're saying. I mean, and here's the other thing too, and I'll chime in on real quick with this. So this is not to take anything away from, any women out there who's fucking crushing it, who's going out there fucking doing probably better than 99% of guys out there. You know what I mean? So, but in regards to like the military aspect of it, I did my entire enlistment as a grunt, as an 0311, as a rifleman, and so I wasn't surrounded by women. Right, my job did not include having women in my own space or in my own workflow. Even being in combat, women were just not there. Right, so what's interesting was. when they try to do the trials of getting women into combat roles, right, going through Ranger school and going through officer candidate, like infantry school and all the other good shit, I've always looked at it as, I'm sure there is one super woman, G.I. Jane, who could outshoot, outcrush, outdo anything and everybody than everybody else in within like the male field. Mm-hmm. But that's one or possibly two, right? I never said that women cannot do things that a man can do sometimes, but it's like super fucking rare. And again, this is not to take away from any. I'm not saying that women shouldn't be in the military. I'm not saying that women, look how much we evolved and just within the last 100 years. I mean, if I got Life magazines from the 60s, and women are just like being portrayed as, bitch, do my fucking laundry, cook my shit, make kids, and that's it, right? So. Yeah. So we evolved into, women are definitely more accepted. I mean, even prior to that, women were considered property. Like the whole thing, like rule of thumb, that's where it came from, was when guys used to beat women, was to see, you can legally beat them with a stick that's just the size of your thumb. Like, that's where we came from, right?
Sure.
So I think women play a major role into the world. I think, we have progressed, and we have, whether it's in business, whether it's all kinds of just as a human society, giving more leeways to women. And women had to go through their struggles to put their rightful place. Absolutely. Like there was a chick who, the Boston Marathon, right? Up to the 70s, it was just strictly run by guys. So she dressed up as a dude and started running into it. And when one of the judges noticed that she was a chick, he went out there, tried to strip her numbers off, and all the other marathoners, the dudes, were like beating the fuck out of him, right? But because of that, after that, like women were allowed to be in the Boston Marathon, right? So
that's a cool story, man.
Yeah,
I want to read about that.
There's actually a very famous photo of that.
That's
but anyways,
awesome.
But point being is that yes, women went through the struggles, just like whether it's guys who religion or color or whatever, right? So we got that point. Yeah. Now, when it comes to the military in general, throughout history, women have never been, in combat roles, at least to my knowledge that I've seen throughout history.
I think we read that the only country, at least as far back as World War I, that even like tried to really do that was Russia. But so you saw different things in different countries. Here in the States, we definitely have a controversial pass on whether what well,
it's doing. A majority of the world. I mean, Israel currently is the only country that allows or has mandatory service for women. But what people don't realize, only 4% of that are actually in combat roles. The rest are in support roles. You know what I mean? Yeah. So what does that speak in volumes of what everybody else is doing? So there are countries like Vietnam, we were reading about it during the Vietnam War, they actually conscripted women to fight.
It was 90% nurses, I think.
Yeah. So and here's the other thing I want to touch upon. I'm all for women to be in the military. I'm all for women to be pilots and to be nurses and to do their part, absolutely. Just like in World War II, right? You had women that wanted to be bomber pilots, and they did. You had women who were, Red Cross nurses. You had women who fucking died in the war, just like Iraq and Afghanistan. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? That women do get killed. But I think put them in combat roles, it's a decision that comes from people who have never been put in combat in the first place.
Yeah. So, well, I want to give my
go for it.
I want to give my 2 cents on this, and like I'm interested to see what you think about this, G, because all right. But anybody that listened to me on that whole genetics and testosterone conversation that already like is pissed off at me, give me a second, all right? Because I got some more to add to this. All right, so first of all, a little bit of background on me is that my mom, she gave birth to me when she was 17 years old. She's always been super independent, like put herself through nursing school, raised me and my brother, like went through a couple of divorces, but like she's always been the alpha role in my life. I think, she really was the driving force, the strength. She ruled with an iron fist. She would, I call her my hero to this day. So the thing is the reason that's important for me is that I grew up only knowing strong women. I only knew what strength in women, and I never really thought any sort of necessarily separation, right? Is I always, the person that the male role, if you will, in my household was really my mom, more than anything, or the traditional male role, whatever. And so that there's that. Then going into the Marine Corps. Now, Look, I went to boot camp in San Diego where we didn't have women. They train over in Paris Island, and then in comm school though, of course we had women. Which so in that job, I definitely was associated with female Marines, and these are some of the strongest of the strong when it comes to women. A female that goes through Marine Corps training. I mean, typically you're a pretty bad bitch, man. I mean, and that's there's strength in that. From there, after the Marine Corps, I ended up in the gym atmosphere, and I've been working as a fitness trainer most of my life. And guess what? Chick trainers, and hopefully nobody gets offended by if I say chick or what. I don't know. It's never offensive, but female trainers are also, again, like some of the strongest, baddest motherfuckers out there. And so it's funny, like my experience with women across this spectrum has been really these strength roles or these kind of alpha roles. Now, I think you're absolutely right that it definitely could be a smaller percentage of a segment of the population. But when it comes to women in combat, I think typically it's because of like physical limitations and
there's a lot of things that limits, man. I mean, you got women who get pregnant in the field. You got women who periods. You got emotional shit. I mean, it's all this stuff. It breaks unit cohesion, in my opinion, because. Hey man, guys got dicks, dude, and we're primal fucking beings, and again, and it's like same thing when we were talking about when the whole don't ask, don't tell got lifted, right? People are like, there's a lot of things that were like, oh, he's gay, he's gonna fuck me in my foxhole. No, it's not the case. You know what I'm saying? Like, but it's there are a lot of guys they're like, dude, I'm looking way past that, and I have no problem if the guy is gay. I don't care. He'll probably save my life. He'll probably do a better job than most people. But when it comes to women, but that doesn't. They're still, they still have they don't have the same limitations that women have. Yeah. And
Well, I will say that my again, kind of going back to my mom, who I think starts all this. Like, yeah, she was a unit of strength, and she basically was hardcore. Like, women can do whatever the fuck they want to do, and that's something I always like understood anyway. But interestingly enough, when I became a father and like just started maturing into adult years, she was one of the first people to remind me of a quote unquote man's role in this world, I guess, in that there were some traditional values that she really held on to, that she believed that I should be, the strength component of, say, a relationship or something, and that men are different than women, and she was completely okay with being able to own up to that, even though she definitely led with strength and saying, hey, I can do whatever. And it makes me wonder. Now, I'm not pretending to know what should happen, whether or not they should be in combat roles or not, and I know your stance on it. I'm just curious, assuming that everything is created equal, the standards are equal, everything, like, if a woman can prove herself to live up to the standards, the same standards that men can, is it okay to have her fight next to?
I have no problem. Here's the other issue.
It's kind of the G.I. Jane
thing. But I don't have a problem with that. If a person can prove, yes.
Sure.
But all the tests that have been done through BUDS, through Ranger School, through Infantry School, either standards have been lowered or they've just been fucking passed. I hate to tell you this, but it's true. Sure. And I'm not saying that because I'm just making my own fucking mind. A good buddy of mine was at SQT. Another buddy of mine was one of the instructors at the fucking Ranger for that class. So, I hate to tell you, to me, this whole thing about women in combat is not about a political fucking move. Like, it is because, like, there hasn't been one chick who could literally pass through the entire thing. And again, I may be wrong, but from what I've seen, with same standards, they didn't hack it.
Well, I'm curious to see what all of y'all think in the comments, because it's funny, like the way, again, I always look at it like, equal rights, equal fights in a sense. And I'm like, look, I think it's awesome that you fight for the opportunity to be able to do things that maybe traditionally you couldn't. However, that also comes with the price of the sacrifice that the people that are doing those things have to go through. Like it's not just like, oh, you have man opportunities and so therefore it's peaches. Let me tell you something, man. There are things about being a man that I've gone through and experienced that are fucked up, and hardships that I think that women maybe haven't had to go through, you know, like, I mean, you know, even simple stuff, right? Our PT test, right? We're back when I was in anyway, we had to do pull-ups. They did a dead arm hang. And you know what? I'm gonna tell y'all, from being in the gym, there are women that can do more fucking pull-ups than I can, and damn sure more pull-ups than you can.
But it goes, but it goes back to the whole thing about it's a small percentage. I mean,
right. Well, what I'm saying is, why not just like say, like, here's the bar. Here's the standards are standards. You live up to it, you can take part. You don't, you can't.
Right.
That's the way it is.
No,
you
and
know?
that's the way it's supposed to be, but it's not.
Yeah.
That's the thing. It's supposed to be like that. And they've tried to do that.
If we tried to have a justification for, like, let's say in Bud's training, they reduced the standards or something, like, try to just, what justification could you have to allow somebody like a mulligan or something? How do you go down that frame of mind? And do you say, like, well, it's a woman, so she's physically less capable? But isn't that the whole point of, like, the non-women in combat thing? You know what I mean? Like, I'm trying to wrap my mind.
That's what I'm saying. Like, you know, this whole thing about, you know, it's just like, again, and this is my opinion from a grunt dude. Why fuck it all up? You know what I mean? Like, why? You know, I'm not saying I get what you're saying, that it'd be nice to give everybody the same opportunity. I actually talked to a lot of women that are like, fuck going to combat. Like,
yeah,
you might have 1 out of 20 who maybe say, yeah, fuck yeah, I'm going to do that. You know what I mean? Like some G.I. Jane shit. Great, awesome. But at the end of the day, like, throughout history, wars have been fought by fucking men. Bottom line. The reason being is, so if all the guys get fucking killed, at least women can fucking carry on and reproduce and all the other shit.
Well, it makes me wonder other segments of society. Like, I wonder if, let's say the NFL, like the NFL, is it open to, like, women can, like, if they wanted to, they could go after, like, but you never see them in the NFL. You know what I mean? And I don't even know if that, maybe they're not allowed to, but, like, I'm pretty sure, I doubt, if you're strong enough, you're bad enough, I bet you could be a fucking lineman in the NFL. But when have we ever,
again, you know, my thought on it, the whole thing is, again, my whole thought on it is that if you keep in the same standards, then fucking go for it. Bottom line.
But have you also ran across some dudes that were, you know, in the front lines with you that physically probably shouldn't have been able to live up to be there?
Yeah, no, absolutely, man. I mean, not even about the physical part, more on the mental part.
Yeah.
But you can't really train for that in a way. Like, you can train for it, but then, like, when fucking bullets are grazing over you, man, like, you really get to see the real person after that. So,
dude, I've got a kick-ass segue that I feel like you're, like, I don't know. I'm so interested to hear what you're about to say about this, but, like, I want to go from combat on this conversation. I want to kind of move into just real life. I don't know, call it civilian, whatever, but just, like, there's something that is incredibly interesting to me regarding this like man-woman differences and, like, understanding one another and, like, opportunities and all that stuff.
Well, but before you say anything, though, there's, again, like, you know, civilian life and real life problems. Like, that's one thing, right? I'm not going to disagree on the fact that women can do certain things, right? Combat, it's a whole different animal, obviously. So,
oh yeah, for sure, man. I know.
You know, so my opinion on combat may be completely different from, you know, whatever, like, you know, just regular day problems.
Right. All right. So yeah, no, don't doubt. I mean, that's what you know, and I get that, right? It's like in even in civilian war, like, you could say there's certain jobs, as an example, that just don't, or, you know, I mentioned the NFL, or, like, there's a lot. So we can go through these little.
I mean, look at like this. You got, like, women that are cops, for example, right? I'm all for that.
Oh yeah,
absolutely, dude.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, I think that, you know, I'm sure. And again, I'm not a police officer. I've never been in one. I can only assume that. You know, that women do just as good of a job for guys. Again, standards. I don't think the standards are lowered because, you know what I mean, they're women. I don't think that's the case. But they're fully capable of taking down fucking bad guys and fucking shooting and beating the fuck out of people if they need to. Absolutely, man. You know, so
yeah, I've been real close to getting my ass whipped by some women, but that's another story. So here's okay. This is what I'm interested in. All right. So let's talk about equality between sexes. Let's talk about giving people, like, rights or at least having understanding. So in civilian world, anybody that's ever been in a relationship, if you're a man, you have probably at some point heard the conversation around like, you need to be understanding to the fact that women are hormonally set up differently than we are, and so that causes certain emotions, and whether that's that one time a month or whatever, right? And they have like kind of it's a societal understanding, like I have like my woman time, or like I'm having a woman moment, right? And we are absolutely conditioned as men to need to have compassion for that, or at least give some leeway to a certain extent, right? It's like, okay, she's on her period. I need to understand that. And all this is hormonally driven. We could talk about estrogen and just the cycles and how this works. But how come, like, let's say you're having a man moment, you're being a little bit more aggressive than you normally would one day. And I'm not saying like, there's no excuse for like beating your lady or anything like that. All right. Y'all don't misconstrue this, but like, let's say you're being a more of a dude that day. Does there need to be understanding because you have 10 times the testosterone that they do?
Okay.
Like you need to be understanding to, I'm
okay,
just being a chick.
No.
Like,
okay. So first off, it's like, okay. So, I think first it depends on the person that you're with. One, so if a woman is not gonna let you be a man, you shouldn't be with her, and vice versa. If a man is not gonna let the chick be a woman, then you shouldn't be with her. I don't need to have man time. Like the chick needs to respect that I'm a man. This is the shit that I do, whether it's whatever I enjoy or whatever it is, and I have certain responsibility as a man. Let me do my shit. Same thing that. Women have their responsibilities, and I have to, accept the fact that if she's like, hey man, I want to go out with my fucking girlfriends, go fucking do it. I don't care. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, but I've never, ever heard like, I need woman time or man time. Like that's like some, I mean, something is wrong.
Well, what I mean is like, do you not like, and I want you to like, outside of your own relationship, don't you think society in general encourages men to be more understanding to women based off of their emotional sways up and down versus the opposite direction?
I think I put it this way, man. I mean, okay, so I just want to make sure I'm understanding the question right. Yeah. So I can only assume that is it kind of like because men have been complete dicks throughout history to women, and now we're seeing this change where we're advocating like, hey, dude, you need to be more acceptable to the female.
If a woman had an outburst in a store, right? Like she was like having a slight...
honestly, I don't think it's anything about gender then at that point, because I think it's about character, right?
Oh, it should be. But what I'm just simply asking... Like, so that's what I wanted to transition into, is to say that we need to start looking at just people instead of saying woman, man necessarily.
Oh,
in that, but like if a woman in a store or something was like, had like like she was pissed off at her husband because she was like on her period or something, she had an outburst, that would be construed differently to people around than if a guy was having a bad day and he yelled at his wife. Like that too,
Yeah,
both
I
of
mean,
those things
there's
are totally
still,
different.
yeah, I mean, so it's hard to say, this is like the gray line, because it's hard to treat everybody equal in a way when there are very subtle differences, right? And again, we're not talking about skin color, religion, we're talking about gender. Obviously, we're different for a reason, right? It's like you were saying, guys have tests, and, we have certain characteristics and like, emotionally and physically and anatomically, same thing with women, right? So we're born to be different. If not, if that wasn't the case, then we would all be like the same shit. I think that there are certain traits certain things that women do that I think there are just, that's what women do. And then there's some things as guys do that guys do. I think what you're getting at is that we're trying to like come meet at this bridge maybe, there are certain things that it's like, I'm always going to say women do that. And there are certain things that women are going to say, like, you guys always do that.
Yeah.
So
I guess what worries me is that, and what I'm basically getting at is that I think, this is a message to all the guys out there that are listening that give a shit what I'm saying, is that...
he's talking about all this because he just wants points tonight. That's it, right? You want to get on their side. My wife, I'm doing it so my wife doesn't shoot me in the back or put like fucking shredded glass in my food. That's essentially what's happening.
Well, so the thing is I I want every guy out there to hear me when I say that I think that we need to have compassion for women in their differences, and whether that's the emotional moments, that time of the month, whatever the fuck it is that's going on that typically is associated with a woman characteristic. I think we need to have compassion and love for that, and we need to be understanding. With that being said, what worries me is that the tipping of the scales becomes where society expects us to be that way, and I think that we should, but I think that there's limited compassion for men being men, or at least it's starting to go that direction to where
honestly, I mean, my thing is this, man. Again, to me, it boils down to having mutual respect for one another. It boils down to having a mutual understanding for one another. I think that people get categorized in this pool of, women do this, guys do this. But at the end of the day, if I'm with a woman and she respects, my quirks or my needs or my things, that it's like, yes, I'm a man and I need to do this. I have no problem, I'm respecting the same thing as the woman, right? But if the woman is being a constant bitch and I'm like, I'm not going to sit there and be like, yeah, just go ahead and be a complete disrespectful bitch to me, right? No. Same thing if I'm beating a woman or I'm being completely disrespectful. I wouldn't want her to say, oh, but you're a guy. Like, yeah, go ahead and beat me. Like, I'm fine.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think it boils down to having just mutual respect regardless, and again, there are certain things that makes us different. But when it comes to that's why we have relationships. That's why, we're not just like animals. Well, I would say we're not just mate and fuck, and go with it, even though some of us do. But at the end of the day, I think, again, it's about having that mutual respect and mutual understanding that, if she says, okay, he's a guy, man, and he's going to work on his car or he's going to get, whatever. But also, what I also say, though, is that a lot of people, because they feel, I give you an example, right? Like, it could be a dumb example, but it's like saying if a woman comes up and says, man, you fucking stink. And you're like, well, I'm a guy, I don't take showers. That's just the way it is.
Right.
People fall into that thing. And I think that's wrong. Absolutely. I think that people that are like, oh, because I'm a chick, I can be a complete bitch to you. Or because I'm a guy, you know what I mean? I see that.
Yeah, that's like chauvinism and hardcore feminism and some of these extremist points of view.
I think that's ignorant in a lot of ways, because it's kind of because we have these differences or whatever, that identifies as men or women, right? Mm-hmm. I don't think it's, you always have to make you always have to make a step forward to being always a better person, right?
Sure.
So,
well, and I think that people being a product of just their irrational emotions or feelings it doesn't give you an excuse. They say you ever heard freedom of speech is not freedom of consequence. And the thing is you being, let's say, a guy and you feel naturally more aggressive or whatever it may be, that's not a fucking a pass for you to get away with being a fucking chauvinistic asshole.
Yeah.
But at the same time, if you're a woman, I appreciate that you're a woman and you have just like being a man, there are certain irrational emotions that are tied to us that are driven primally. But just because you're on your period doesn't give you a fucking pass to treat everybody around you, specifically your husband, like a piece of shit. And that's not it's not okay to lean on that. Just like it's not okay for your husband to, do the same shit. Like, I had a bad day at work and I got all this testosterone. I just want to fucking break a wall. That's not okay.
Right. But that's what I'm saying. Yeah. So, it's always about bettering yourself. And, again, my entire thing on this is that, respect yourself and the person next to you, try to have an understanding, always try to do your best to, come to a mutual ground with the understanding that, hey, you're different, I'm different, and that's that, and I don't think anybody's superior over anybody else. I think that, what guys lack, women compensate, and what women compensate, guys, what women lack, guys compensate. That's kind of having that balance, man.
Look, I think at the end of the day, for me, where I stand with all of this, and it's equality on all aspects, okay? Whether we're talking about race, religion, sex, gender, whatever the fuck it is. My 2 cents on it, and this is just where I stand, and I think this is where we're just minorly different, is that I'm like, look, the standards, keep the standards across the board, equal rights, equal fights. Okay, that's it. Like, if somebody punches somebody else in the face, regardless of your gender, go to jail. If somebody,
some people
if
just
somebody
need to
can,
get their ass beat.
well, if somebody can live up to the combat standards, go fight. If all of the, like, if you cannot accept the sacrifice and the qualifications and the shit that comes along with it, the good and the bad, then it's not for you. And so, you know, that's it for me. I don't give a shit if you're gay or woman, whatever. I'm like, look, man, if you can.
So with that said, also, this is, again, not to take anything away from women who have unfortunately experienced combat, or women who have done deeds out there. You know, there's plenty of them.
We should also include gay women, because, you know, we haven't, you know, there's all these variations of things. If you're a gay woman, you also should be able
anyways, to. Like, if you're just a person in general, okay, well, however you decide to identify yourself. But bottom line is, it's, you know, like I said, I don't think gender should be a tiebreaker for certain things. But I do believe there's some shit that some people are just not meant to do, man. And I don't believe in lowering standards just to make up for it.
I wish I could play in the NBA. It turns out I'm only 5'9", and I'd be fucked on that. So
yeah, so that's good example. There we go. Like, why you could say I want to play in the NBA, right?
Right. I could rally for it.
You know, so are you gonna go on a strike on a march because you're unfortunately 5'8" or 5'9" and you're not 6'12"? I mean, see what I'm saying?
For me,
the NBA is gonna lower the standards to get you in there.
I'm a big fan of, like, going in on all my strengths and not overly complicating or feeling bad for my weaknesses. So for me, I'm like, you know, maybe I want to be in the NBA, but I'm only 5'9". I'm gonna find the thing that I am good at, and I'm going to pay all into that, and I'm not going to bitch about how I can't do this or that.
Yeah, and again, you know, I always implore people, if you want to serve your country, your community, man, go do it. Don't let gender and all that shit get to you or whatever. You know, you live in a country where you have the opportunity to do all of that, and we've done it. And, like, you know, like, women have played a massive role during World War II, for example. You know, all the guys went to fight. Women stayed back, did their part, and a lot of women joined the volunteers and the Red Cross and the WASPs and the WACs and all that good stuff. You know, so again,
also, and you know what? It's like, women should continue to fight for any sort of mistreatment or equality issues or whatever. Like, you deserve, in my opinion, if you feel that there is a segment of society or something that you are not, you know, privy to, or something like that you feel like you're up to, and my 2 cents is that, look, continue to fight for that. That's fine. Even if I disagree or G disagrees or anybody does, like, you should go after the things that you want to, because, I mean, that's really how history has been shifting itself over time, to allow, like, certain standards that we used to think were normal, that now we're seeing that, you know, obviously women are capable of doing so much more things. And the fact of the matter is that it was a woman that taught me how to be a man. And, you know, like, that's something that I'm incredibly grateful for. And, you know, like I said, anyway.
Whether you're a guy or a chick, just don't take shit from nobody.
Don't take zero fucks.
Yeah, there you go. That's the, but in any case, that's kind of all I got, man. So,
well, this might be a little bit of a shorter episode. I mean, it's still about 45 minutes or so.
But I think it's enough. I think it's a powerful 45 minutes for people to soak into and to see if, you know, we get murdered the next day or something.
Yeah, that's very true. So if I'm on here alone in the next episode, it's because G got poisoned by his wife.
Yeah.
And again,
possibly.
Look, in all honesty, you know, we are incredibly open-minded individuals that just love banter and conversation and maturity in this topic. So this is not some chauvinistic, closed-minded, like, point of view. This is really just our stand. This is what we see. This is through our lenses, basically. And it doesn't necessarily mean that, like, we're closing the door on conversation. Like, so, you know, comment down below. But if you're a douchebag, like, don't expect anything but a smart ass reply. But if you have an educated response, I mean, for fuck's sake, like, that's awesome. That only helps things.
My only thing is that I hope that in a couple of years, we don't have to just say get money and that's it. I hope we can say the other part too eventually.
Eventually. So, I don't know, man. I don't know if that's coming, man.
You know, I'm just saying, like, I feel like now we can only say get money.
Right.
And
Is that next Zero Foxtrot t-shirt?
Well, it just
By the
wouldn't. It
way,
would be like
can
a
you-
blank, and then like just get money.
And if anybody doesn't know this, over at Zero Foxtrot, it is mostly women there. So
That's a really good point. Yeah.
Actually, what I would say, the person that really
it's funny.
runs the show, in my opinion,
My wife, absolutely.
Right.
But what's even interesting, my wife, I kind of had a funny thing about this, right? So I'm hiring, what we're growing. Zero Foxtrot it's getting out there, it's growing. Obviously, you need people, right? And I'm all about working with a small, good team. So we're always looking for people, getting resumes and all that shit. My wife is like, why is there more women that work there? And I said, honestly, it's because this is what she said. And I was like, I asked her, what do you think? You know what she said? She's like, because you want to what'd she say? I think it was like something like you want to they're more easy to control or some shit like that. And I'm like, no, that's not the case.
You see, in my experience, women are far from easy to.
Yeah. So she's like, oh, you're just trying to use them. And I'm like, no, I got them because they're fucking doing a really good job. Bottom line, I was like, I don't care about race, I don't care about religion, I don't care about any of that. If a person is good for the job, great, awesome. I've had guys that came in, and 2 guys that I fucking told to show up and I hired them, they didn't even show up anymore. They just didn't even come. Women were on time, resumes look good. What am I gonna say? No, we have too many women. I was like, no, I want the right people for it, and if it just happens to be more women than guys, and so be it. So that's so yes, I'm not a complete dick, and all the other shit is I value like veterans. I get people that are like, oh, I'm a vet, hire me. And that's great, awesome, but is that all you got? If that's all you got, I don't need you.
Yeah. Well, special shout out and love to all the ladies up at Zero Foxtrot, and especially the Queen Bee, Emma. But in all seriousness, there's some bad bitches, man, and they know it, right?
Man.
So
absolutely, dude. Like I said, this is not to take anything away from what women have came from and the ordeals that they had to go through, which is true, and I'll even admit that, absolutely. And I made some examples before. So keep doing your shit, man, and guys, do the same shit. You know what I mean? Don't go backwards. Keep fighting for your rights too. Just like you were saying about the whole. We had a conversation about the legal system with single parents and all the other stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it goes both ways, but this one is for you ladies, and get money.
That's it, guys. All right, the next time you see us, we'll be on CNN for the Me Too movement and on the next episode. All right, guys, that's it for today's podcast. We want to thank everybody for stopping by. Again, we welcome all your comments, your opinions, all that stuff.
Yeah.
Drop them down below. We'd love to hear from you.
Real quick, I want to interject. For those of you who are interested, go to zerofoxtrot.com if
Always
you need
the
some
sales
badass
pitch.
gear. Yep. Need some badass gear. We got if you're a Peaky Blinders fan, I highly suggest you get on there because we just released the most awesome fucking shirt to the guys who just didn't give a fuck. So head over to zerofoxtrot.com.
Are we allowed to mention the Tombstone, the new Tombstone shirt?
Oh, yeah. So I know we did a Doc Holliday shirt. It's still available, but we are coming out with a wide ERP and should complement pretty well.
Have you already finalized the artwork?
Yeah. And there's some other ones in the works, which I won't get into. But again, zerofoxtrot.com. Follow me on ZuluFux on Instagram. And
did you sell a lot of board shorts?
We sold a shit ton of them, actually. So we're actually pretty excited to get those rolling, man. They're fucking good cuts, made in the U.S., but it just takes a little bit of producing because they're literally hand cut, handmade, to order. So pretty interesting. And I had one guy that was actually pretty interesting about that. He's like, rants on me. He's like, most board shorts sell for $59.99 plus shipping, right? I'm selling mine for $49.99 plus shipping.
Yeah.
So this fucking douchebag gets on there and he's like, why should I be paying that much? And I said, well, first off, I was like, compared to everybody else, we actually sell them cheaper and, and it is quality. And he's like, well, I go to Walmart and I pay $20 for mine. I was like, well, so first off, I was like, you're supporting sweatshops and you think you're being raped, but you think my prices are gouging you. In reality, those board shorts that you're wearing at $20 at Walmart, they literally cost $3 to make. And so you're getting charged times 4, times 5. And second off, I was like, I'm doing it because guess what? I could easily go to China and do some dumb shit. But you know what? I'd rather keep a company, a manufacturing company, employed or above water, you know, by me giving my business. So
sometimes consumers, you know, and no offense to anybody out there, but for fuck's sake, like you don't fully appreciate the full context of what goes on sometimes within a business. I mean,
absolutely,
you know,
man.
people think like, oh, selling $50, they're just greedy or whatever. It's like you
not
don't know how
that,
much
man.
it costs. You don't know how many units you have to order.
Yeah,
you don't know
there's
so
a lot
much
of things in the
bullshit.
back, and unfortunately, most people are going to be ignorant about that. But you know what? And it's fine. It's completely fine. I don't expect to sell to every swinging dick. I don't want to do that. But I think there's also, you know, there's like this massive misunderstanding. Anyways, the guy was a complete dumbass, and I said, well, you know, and then he was like, oh, you know, you just like using the veteran status to blue. I'm like, you should probably go back and like see what the fuck we've done for a lot of veterans, and a lot of things I don't post about, a lot of things I don't talk about because there's some things that you just don't need to do. The whole thing with the World War II guy, the only reason why that went public was because I had to do a GoFundMe, right? And then because a good buddy of mine, Alex, without me knowing, called like the news channel and let him know. But besides that, like this shit would have been taken care of completely in the dark.
And also,
You know?
I pretty much forced myself on him to video the interaction.
Yeah, and that too.
was
So,
like, yeah.
so anyways, you know, the point is, and here's the deal, man. If it's too expensive for you, move the fuck on. Nobody gives a fuck about your opinion, dude. Like, go. You're free to buy other shit, dude. You don't gotta buy from me. I could care less, man.
Yeah, dude.
You know.
Did you save me some board shorts? Alex got 2 pairs. I don't understand. Like, dude, what?
Well, he shot him.
I'm the
Well, he
co-host.
shot him, man.
Yeah, but I'm the co-host on the Zero Bunker, man. Like, what? I'm gonna be at the pool without a skull on my shirt. Like, what am
Yeah,
I'm gonna have to represent Walmart.
I will get you size 26 or whatever you wear for them.
Is that
I will
what?
get you that?
Okay, so they do. They're not just like small, medium, large.
No, it's 20 up to like I think like 40 or something, man. Actually, a lot of big dudes, man, fucking crushing legs and shit, dude. So, yeah,
not me.
But anyways, guys, that's all we got.
That's it. Subscribe on YouTube. Follow us on wherever that you like to absorb your podcast. Thanks for tuning in, and head over to ZeroFoxtrot.com, which we're gonna have a link down below. I guess we are on multiple platforms. I don't know how iTunes works, but anyway, ZeroFoxtrot.com. You can just type it in your browser. Bye, guys.
Peace, yo.